in the East End of London, Charlie Kray and his younger identical twin brothers, Ronnie and Reggie, had formed their own gang which came to be known as the Firm. Ronnie, a paranoid schizophrenic, suffered from delusions of grandeur and had planned to not only control the East End, but to have influence in every major city in the country.
First time I came in touch with the Kray brothers, with Charlie Kray, and we worked together, and he used to come over and he'd look at all the garages full up with stuff, and he'd say, I'll take it all, Fred, I'll take it a lot. And he used to come over with his van and make several trips and pay on cash. So that saved me hawking it around to different people, you know, to sell personal bits and pieces. So he used to take the whole lot. And then he used to talk to me about the twins and his two brothers, you know, and they was young because they was like that much younger than me, 5 years or so younger. So, and he used to tell me the trouble and the problems they used to get into and where they was performing, and you know, there was a worry to their mother and all the rest of it, and there was a worry to him as well. You know, Charlie. They'd give him a hard life and hard time.
Being imprisoned for 12 years at the age of 70 ensured Charlie Kray knew all about hard time.
When he was in the jail, I used to go and visit him everywhere in, and then he was in Long Lartin. They transferred him to Frankland in Durham. And the dirty bastards made him wear a paper overall, this is a 70-year-old man, in the back of one of them prison vans to take him to Frankland, freezing fucking cold. And they took him, and on the way there, they went to, stopped at Leicester, so they could have some lunch, or the screws could have some lunch, whatever. I stopped there on the way, and then took him to Frankland. And then we used to go and see him there, and he wasn't well, and his health started to deteriorate. And then they shipped him then to Parkhurst. He got pneumonia, became ill. And when he was there, his legs were swelling, and they used to have to bring him on a meet, on the visiting, bring him in a wheelchair eventually. And it was disgusting. And then he was transferred then to the hospital on the island, and we used to go and visit him there. And even on the visits, he was chained to the bed. And in fairness, the screws were nice guys, and they were really very respectful towards Charlie. Them bastards set him up, and took it all away from him, and then he just deteriorated in there, and it was totally wrong. It's totally wrong. It should never have happened. And then them dirty bastards will get a feather in the cap, and that poor man's gone to his grave.
My memories wasn't really happy memories. Every time I saw them, there was always a problem or something, you know, or they was never. The only good memories I've got is going round to their house and with my kids and meeting their mother, you know, Violet, and she would take the kids. She was a lovely, lovely woman, and she'd take the kids in. I'll take them, hello, Freddie, and Jamie and Gregory, and she'd take them in the kitchen and give them a sandwich or, you know, drop a lemonade. And she was a very beautiful woman, lovely, typical Cockney mother, you know. The old man used to keep it out the back. You never see much of him, the father. But the twins, and it was always, the house was always full of different people, you know, at the firm laying around and in the vicinity. They was never on their own, really. There was always someone about.
It was a mixture of fear and respect. Respect because women and children, untouchable. Ordinary guys who went to work and that, untouchable. Any rows we had was only amongst ourselves. And if we hurt or killed one another, so what? And therefore, people did have a lot of respect, yeah.
Well, they was two wasn't they, to be quite honest. I mean, Reggie Kray never come out till late. I was away with Reggie Kray for quite some time. He never come out, but at the end he did come out, right? He was same as his brother. So...
But violent
Oh, they was violent, yeah.
But that
I
didn't
mean,
worry you?
in their own little way, I suppose, they was violent, yeah. So was we, wasn't we? So, you know.
But that didn't worry you and your brother, no?
Never. I tell you, again, that if they put me and my brother in a cell with them two, there's only two people coming out, that's me and my brother. No brains. Both of them, I mean, they was both no brains. What I would say, no brains, you know.
Yeah.
They wanted to be gangsters. They set out to be gangsters. Used to read gangster magazine, gangster comics and things like that. You understand what I mean? I mean, it never happened with me. I mean, I'm running a business and trying to get a few quid and, you know, make yourself successful, a bit of ambition. But with them, that's what they wanted to be.
I never trusted Reggie. I thought he sat on the fence and he would go whatever way suited him. Whereas Ronnie was more, if he gave his word, he would stick to his word. He was the nuttiest one of the two. And he was on this drug, horse tranquiliser and knock a horse over what he used to take, you know. But he needed that every day to keep himself, because he was manic depressive, you know. And he thought if people looked at him too long, he thinks they're going to attack him or something. You know, he was one of those very insecure people. Or if he went to the toilet and someone followed him into the toilet, he'd think they'd come in to do him or something, you know, and he'd probably attack them first, you know. So he wasn't right in the head. He definitely wasn't right in the head.
It was all right. Ronnie was a bit funny, like, you know. Ronnie would get up in the morning, yeah, and some mornings he'd come down, he'd be all happy, ha ha ha. Another morning he'd come down, sit in a chair and pull a face and he'd sit there and you couldn't talk to him because he used to stay meditating.
He ain't took his pills yet.
And he used to have loads of pills. I used to take a couple myself sometimes, he used to give me a buzz. and that's how he was. And if he was nice in the morning, he'd ever got someone on the night. And if he was horrible in the morning, he'd be all happy on the night.
Ronnie Kray was out of control. He was prepared to maim or murder people for the slightest misdemeanour. After a dispute at a nightclub involving a friend of the Krays and a burglar named Lenny Hamilton, Ronnie ordered Hamilton to attend a meeting.
So I go up there, get a cab, black cab, and go up there. They show me in the kitchen, and Ronnie was standing with his back to the, I didn't know, but it was a gas stove. He sat me down in the chair. He said, all right, Len? I said, yeah. He said, all right, you can go. I thought,
He said, all right, what?
He said, all right, you can go now. I thought, well, what you got me up here for? I'm thinking. Then he told two fellas to get hold of me, and they got hold of me, like. And that's when I see the pokers on the gas. Well, they know what you sharpen knives on, cold steels, that's what you had on the gas.
And were you standing up or sitting down?
Pardon?
Were you standing up?
I was standing, they was holding me.
Right.
You know? So, as he's come towards me, I thought he's trying to fire me. What for? Anyway, I had black curly hair then, he started burning my hair off of me. You know, fucking man's crazy, like, you know. And then he put the pokers across, he was going to burn my eyes out. And as he's coming towards me, someone shouted out, no, Ron, not that. And he just stopped. As he walked away too, I said, you can go now.
I was invited to go around the house one day, and I went down there, and they're all sitting, the twins and Charlie sitting there. And then Charlie stood up and he said, welcome to the firm, like some fucking board meeting. And he said, we want you on our firm to earn money with us. Forget all them bank robberies and shit like that. So,
That's true what he's saying.
and then they put me on a succession of doors in different clubs. And so you become a face. They use you because you're a face. They know that people will respect when you're on the door. They go, oops, don't start fucking about in here. It's the firm, belongs to the firm. A regular thing was Reggie and Ronnie would have a bet between themselves. I bet you a tenner I get more money today than you. And then Ronnie would take Scotch Ian and Reggie would take me, and off we'd go and visit different people and just demand dough off them. And whoever got the most nicked a tenner. A tenner wasn't worth 2 bob in them days.
The Krays employed their terrifying reputation to extort money. One tactic was to send someone to trash a premises before offering their victim protection for a fee the following day.
They would send in a troublemaker first, someone like Teddy Smith, who was easily 2 light hours and he was drunk as a skunk. And then he'd smash the place up. Then the next day, the briefcase man ran in and said, "Look, I can put a stop to all this shit for you. You just give us a penny a week and we forget about it."
Well, if you didn't fear him, you either was very brave or stupid, or you were telling lies.
Physical harm.
You were telling lies if you said you never feared them. Why? Because they were really frightening if you really knew them when they threatened you.
The Krays had become so out of control, it could only be a matter of time before they were killed or arrested. In fact, Scotland Yard had formed a special squad of officers to end their reign, led by Detective Chief Inspector Leonard Nipper Reid. Even their own firm were concerned about their random acts of violence and were conspiring against them.
When Ronnie Kray sat in the car, he always wanted to sit in the passenger seat. So we just sort of larking about, we said, it'd be so easy, just sit behind him. When you find a nice corner, pop him in the back of the head and chuck him out and let him roll down the bank or something. It would have been so easy.
Much of the talk about the twins' demise was little more than wishful thinking, but some of their most trusted associates did actually meet at Simpson's restaurant in London to discuss the best way of removing them for all time.
I thought they should be ironed out, to be honest.
You thought the Krays should have been shot?
The 2 of them, yeah.
Why did you think?
Because they was dangerous to everybody. And if they hadn't been arrested when they were, that's what would have happened.
Was that?
Yeah.
That had been.
That was on the cards, yeah.
That the 2 of them had been shot?
Yeah, not Charlie, but they would. Yeah, that's in the Simpsons in the Strand. That took place, you know, discussion.
The Krays were eventually charged with the murders of Cornell and McVitie and sentenced to life imprisonment. Their plans to control cities as far north as Newcastle were never to be realised. The Geordies, with their own bloody crime history, are adamant that they would never have had a chance anyway. In 1969, the Krays came to Newcastle to discuss the purchase of some gaming machines. When they were asked to leave the nightclub they were in, Panda was given £2,000 to give to the Krays by the frightened club owner once he realised his mistake. Panda didn't rate them at all and put it straight into his pocket.
It wouldn't last a weekend, not a weekend. They could only fight. I'm not in my promise, I did. I met them twice and he was half looking, Ronnie was looking like a Rod's looking at. I was going, what's the matter with you looking at you? Do you know what you're looking at? I was only 19 on my tours from army. That never bothered me at all. Freddie Foreman, different man, but he got a different style. They weren't even gangsters, man. That good people like Joey Pyle and people like that weren't actually on the firm, or Freddie never on the firm, but they helped them out when they were in trouble. They couldn't do nothing else. When they come to Newcastle, they were double lucky. They were double, but they were sat quiet as could be.